It is February 24th, 2025. It's 3 years of war, 3 years of resilience, 3 years of sleepless nights, suffering, pain, losses. And here, near the Sacramento capital, we're talking to the Ukrainians and the supporters to speak out about the war in Ukraine and the current situation.
My name is Hanna Parkomenko. I am originally from Kyiv, Ukraine, and I moved to Sacramento area in 2019 before the full-scale invasion to Ukraine.
After 3 years, what do you feel? Do you still have the hope inside of you?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think the hope, this is something that carries us all together to fight, to keep fighting, because this is what matters. We cannot give up. We cannot give up. We cannot just give up the people that are in trenches right now fighting for the freedom, for the future of our kids. Absolutely. My family is still in Ukraine, my friends, and my brother is actually drafted and a year ago. He is serving in the military. So I have very personal sadness and not, just fear about the future of my family personally and the future of the country. And everything that is happening right now is very, very disturbing. And I'm talking about political situation in the United States and the current governments, and specifically President of the United States, Trump. I am afraid it's going to have a terrible effect, not only in the war in Ukraine, but also, honestly, the whole world, Europe, and just safety of just the world in general.
Do you feel like Europe has the power to keep supporting Ukraine in the current situation when the United States is turning slightly away from it?
I think they do, and they don't really have a choice because, as we all know, Ukraine been fighting for 3 years, not only to protect the Ukrainian borders, but also the borders of the Europe as well. And it's really unfortunate that it takes so long for them to really, come to terms and to accept the situation and just give more and help more because, they just really helping themselves, really helping Ukraine, absolutely.
You said some of your relatives serve in the military.
My brother, my sibling, yeah, yes.
How is he holding up?
Unfortunately, the communication is not really good, and if he has a couple minutes to speak, it's always short and it's always just stressful, and he doesn't really have time to process, honestly, the news from outside his units. It's just there's no time for it. There's so many things to take care of and just to be aware of. Just basically saving the lives of his brothers and, his wife and his family and his parents. So he's holding absolutely. I don't think we have choice to give up and just not to be strong for each other. So hopefully he stays strong.
How's his spirit? Like last time you had any kind of a communication from him, how was he feeling personally?
He's definitely overwhelmed. And, I could ask him actually about the potential, I don't even know how to call it, vacation, just a little getaway home break. Yes, thank you. And he just said unfortunately, we don't have that opportunity and that luxury of going home for even a little bit because there's so many things and everything is just getting more and more intense, on the front line. So it's not the time to, again, get weak and just, get weak and give up. So he's trying to be strong for when he talks to me on my parents. He would not show, I guess, the real things that he feels, and I appreciate him for that because we have to stay strong for each other, I guess, because we do feel a lot at this moment. Yeah.
This video is going to be watched by the English-speaking audience, Europeans probably. What you would want to tell them, like a call to action or something?
Yes, absolutely. I really, and I speak for Ukrainian communities all over the world. Appreciate the support and the help and empathy that we receive from you, but it's just we need more help, and more than anything, we just don't. We ask you not to give up and not to stop standing with Ukraine and supporting Ukraine, because now I think is actually where it's critical to support and just to unite all together, and just remember that this is all for you as well. And we're standing for Ukraine. We're also standing for Europe, absolutely. So please stand with Ukraine and just be united, be strong, and just be rational, and just don't don't believe the lies that you may hear. Just be aware, absolutely, and do what you can. You can simply just share awareness and just be present, and just don't try to put a blinds on, because this is happening in a real time, and it's happening with you as well, and it will affect each and one of you, unfortunately.
Yeah, like everything is interconnected in the world, and yeah, if freedom is just everywhere. If we lose the fight for freedom somewhere, it's the loss for the whole civilized world. What do you think?
I absolutely agree with that. This is the fight for the freedom, absolutely. And like I mentioned, it's just going to have a ripple effect on everybody if we just give up and just, turn our backs to Ukraine. It eventually will definitely get to you, absolutely. People like Putin, they just not giving up their imperialistic goals, unfortunately. This is what they set many years ago, and they actually spoken about it openly as well. It's just not assumptions, and this is a real thing and the real threats, actually. So we no one of us believed that this is possible 3 years ago, and it happened. And everything that he keeps project is absolutely real threats. It's just not the fantasies, unfortunately.
Thank you. I wish the strength to you, to your family, and to your brother, and to the whole Ukrainian nation. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nelia Pachapska. I'm Ukrainian, and I've been living in California for 9 years.
What brought you here tonight?
So today is 3 years since the war have been started. So we just came here to support our country and to raise a voice about the need to stop this war.
What are your hopes for the ending of this war? Do you feel like it's going to end soon or not that soon with the current situation with the politics in the United States? What do you think?
I think it depends on decision that our politics will make. I hope the war will stop soon with minimum died people, with minimum bad consequences for Ukraine, and this war will not be restarted after like 3 or 5 years.
Do you think Europe will continue supporting Ukraine, or what do you think?
Can you repeat?
Yeah, sure. Do you think Europe will continue supporting Ukraine or not?
I hope, because when Soviet Union was dropped, and Ukraine had a lot of nuclear weapon, and England and United States was a guarantee that Ukraine will be protected by this country, and Ukraine gave this weapon, and now I think United States and other countries have to support Ukraine and have to protect it.
Do you feel like there is still going to be support from the United States or not anymore?
I so hope, because Ukraine compared to Russia is so small country, and without United States, they will not be able to do it.
What do you think about Trump saying that Zelensky should go away?
Honestly, for me, Zelensky is a so brave and smart person, and he is protecting how he can do it, how he's able to do it, because it's not easy. I don't know.
So some people say that Zelensky should sign anything to stop the war. What do you think about that? Because people are tired of war, people are exhausted in Ukraine. So do you think he really should sign everything and anything to stop the war and to figure it out later, or he needs to hold his line?
It has two sides. From the one side, yes, because people is exhausted. They will just simply live their lives, and but from the other side, we don't know if the Trump will be next time like president in our country, and we will know if Ukraine will be protected by United States, because president can change, so it's not guaranteed.
Thank you that you're here and stay strong. I wish you all the best and all the strength. Glory to Ukraine.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Anna Berbeniv. I'm one of the organizers of today's rally. I'm the co-organizer of the Sunflower Society of Sacramento.
What you do? What's your part here? I see you're signing a petition here.
Yeah, so our party, we organize the whole rally, together with the Ukrainian American House. So those are our tents. We have a booth with letters to Ukrainian soldiers. The kids are signing them, and we're sending them to the hospitals and to the frontline volunteers. It's actually very touching. They're like gluing them inside their cars, and it gives them like a sense of security. The kids or people are keeping them in their minds. It's one of the most important things for the soldiers who are recovering from the wounds at the battlefield, to feel needed, not forgotten. So we always do all the rallies. We ask the kids and the people to sign those little letters to the soldiers. And then we have a booth with the petition. Today's petition is addressed to Ami Bear, that's our representative. He's already supporting Ukraine, and he's been very supporting all these years. So that's basically we're saying thank you to him, and we are asking him to stay with us, to stand with the Ukrainian community during these challenging times, and we are asking for his support with helping with the issue of the prisoners of war in captivity, the civilians in the captivity, and with the deported children. So that's here. And we're also informing people about the future project. We're going to have a blood drive in Sacramento. It's a great project. We're going to be, the Ukrainian community will be donating blood to Red Cross. It's basically giving their blood to Americans as a thank you for all the help that they received from Americans since the full-scale invasion started.
So your personal role is pretty important, and I'm sure it's quite challenging. Where do you find the strength to keep fighting all those 3 years and taking your part in it?
Well, it would be almost impossible to make it if I wouldn't do that. I mean, if I wouldn't have a chance of supporting Ukraine, I would. I don't know how I would cope with all the pain. So it keeps me busy. I feel that I make an impact. We organize a community. We make it bigger. We educate people on how to reach out to their elected officials, how to tell their representatives what matters to them, what they care about. And this is, of course, Ukraine. And there's such a great, amazing Ukrainian community. But it's like a lot of people right here who are fled from the war. And there is almost, you can't name a person who wouldn't lose a friend or a relative or wouldn't be, any affected by the war. So it really helps that I can help somehow, I can fix it.
What's your personal opinion on the recent Trump's words that Zelensky is a dictator with 4% of the support in Ukraine and that there should be elections in Ukraine right now?
Well, first of all, Trump is an elected president, and I respect I respect all the citizens who elected him as a president. I'm not a citizen myself. I disagree with all said above. Trump himself had been supporting of Ukraine during the full-scale invasion. He considered, I mean, his how he sees what's happening changed drastically. I don't know what's the reason for that, but that's a fact. Russia is an aggressor. Russia invaded Ukraine. Russia committed numerous war crimes. Russian soldiers killed citizens, raped women. They committed numerous atrocities on the territory of peaceful Ukraine. Ukraine did not invade Russia, and I mean, that's obvious. And I have so many friends who fled the war, who've seen that with their own eyes. So, I mean, it's a shame that, it's this on this level, on such a high level, it's discussed in any other way than it is actually is. This is shameful. That's invasion.
I agree. So one more thing is people say, like, there is an opinion that right now that Ukraine is such exhausted and people in Ukraine are so exhausted with war. Zelensky should sign anything and everything just to stop the war, to freeze it, and then just to let people live peacefully in Ukraine. What do you think about that?
I have a lot of Ukrainian friends, and they are the most free people that I've ever met in my life. So basically, nobody can tell them to do anything. And I'm friends with the military people. I'm friends with the frontline volunteers. They are exhausted. They are very tired. But they have been fighting for all these years, losing their friends in a battlefield, seeing so many deaths. They want justice. They want all these deaths, their kids killed, their parents died under the shellings. They want all this to make sense somehow. They want justice. And there is no way, however tired you are, you cannot just forget things like this. And I think that's what's happening right now, is that somehow people try to name it as a conflict while it's war. It's actually genocide. To play around with the meanings, the words. No, this is not conflict. This is genocide. Hundreds of thousands of people have been killed because they are Ukrainians. And I think it's very important to call it as it is. This is genocide. So then you say you want to deal or anything, that's what you're dealing on. And it's very important to remember what have been happening all these years. And it's very important to remember that the Ukrainians are free people and they have their right to choose whatever they want for their free country.
What would be your call to action to the people in Europe, in the United States, in the civilized world that would be watching this video, listening to you? What would be your call to action to them?
Stay strong, be smart, keep your heart open for empathy, for compassion. Don't listen to people who tell you otherwise. It should hurt when something like this happens. And in your soul, in your heart, you always feel what's right. And it's very important what is happening. It's very serious. It's a worldwide conflict that affects everyone. So everyone should contribute and everyone should act. Contact your elected officials. Speak up. Tell people truth. Call the things what they're supposed to be called. Like, this is not conflict, this is genocide. Tell people about all the war crimes. Tell people about the kids who were taken away from their families. Tell people about the prisoners of war. It's been years that you could, try to be out of politics. Well, this time has passed. You cannot be out of politics anymore. And the history shows that, it doesn't work that way. Everyone should be involved. And I think you should focus on a very simple values. It is kindness, empathy, justice, and pride in a best meaning.
My name is Kimberly Dillon, and I volunteer for the Sunflower Society, Sacramento.
So, what are your feelings after 3 years of war, since this full-scale invasion, and what's overwhelming you? Just tell me about your feelings for it.
Well, today it's not just about the 3-year anniversary. It's about the vote in the UN today, United Nations. That was really shocking to me to see that America is voting with Russia and North Korea. My family's from Finland, and we have seen genocide from Russia in the ingrained Finns. And I also have, my grandfather fought in World War II, and, they all shared about Russian aggression and, how we need to be careful. And, so to see my country vote with Russia was very sobering today.
What do you think about the support of the United States for Ukraine? Is there any hope it's going to, in some way, still be there, or you think it's just hopeless and we can only hope for Europe to support Ukraine in the current situation?
Well, I've been doing a lot of advocacy the last year with Kevin Kiley's office, my representative, and he's always voted for Ukraine. I don't know how that will be now, but he's the only representative I have. He's the one in office, so I will continue to work with his office. So far, I'm scheduling a meeting, but I don't know how things are in that office right now and if he's still supportive. I know that other representatives have spoken out. Some Republican representatives in our country have spoken out. That really gives me hope, because I'm hoping that they all see how bizarre it is for us to, side with Russia over this when the whole world knows that Russia started this. Yeah.
What are your predictions? I mean, I understand that predictions is not great at all, but what are your hopes? Like, what's your personal feeling for how soon it's going to end?
Oh gosh, that is a question. I don't know if I have processed like the information that I've gotten in the last week from the news and everything to really wrap my head around that. Honestly, a lot of us thought that America would always support Ukraine, and to see that it's not is kind of shocking to me. I can only hope that, you know, um, my cousins in Finland and everybody who's fighting in Finland for Ukraine and everybody all over Europe, I hope that they're strong enough to like carry on this work and help us too. And yeah, and just I'm just really hoping that Russia gets out of Ukraine and they can have all their land back. That's what I got to focus on right now.
What do you think about the point of view that the Ukrainian people are so exhausted with the war that Zelensky should just take any kind of deal and stop it as soon as he can, just sign anything and everything in this context? What do you think about that?
I mean, I I would hope that they would still have some spirit in them to keep their country. I know I would, but I also know that exhaustion is real. And I think that has to be met with such very careful consideration for how the people feel. That's what's most important. I mean, obviously, I'm on the side that they just need their land back. They need their whole land back. And Russia needs to get out and stop attacking their neighbors and stop the aggression. Um, but I mean, I'm not there. I know they're exhausted, and I have friends there that are exhausted, so are wondering if that's the way to go. So.
What would be your call to action to the people who'd be watching this video? Your message to them in terms of human rights, in terms of their spirit, in terms of like anything you could tell them. What do you want to say?
What's most important right now is to call your representatives and senators if you're in the United States. Is this towards U.S. citizens? Yeah. Please help us to call your representatives and senators just to, tell them like you don't want to be on Russia's side, that Ukraine, they didn't do anything to start this war. So to go through that propaganda and just believe that is really crazy to me. So we really need people to stand up, make those calls, email, even the state legislature, like your state senators and assemblymen, like in California, ask them to advocate for this, send letters to those in power above them. They can advocate for you on this too. Yeah.
How about the message for the whole civilized world, let's say, that would be watching and having the pain in the heart right now? What would you tell them?
I just think that we should stand together. Like we really need to stand together. There's not only my government in the United States is kind of just being taken over, but others are threatened. So we really need to stand together, support each other. I live on those videos of people from outside of the United States saying they stand with me and they see what's going on. So we just need to talk and continue to communicate and stand together and rally all over the world. If Georgia can send 80% of their population into the streets like they did last year, we can do it too. And things would change overnight if we did.
So one more thing I wanted to ask is some people say that, I mean, there is an opinion that Russia is still more like this war is more like a local conflict, and it's really not something that could scale to a bigger war. Would you tell? What's your opinion on that, basically?
I think we just have to look to history, and just look up, just even Google Russian aggression. It happens all the time. Last year in Estonia, they cut all of Estonia's buoys and tried to rewrite the water lines. So I mean that's not okay to move a country's border, or try to. They got caught. So it's just all those little aggressions, and just all the attacks and annexations of land. Like Georgia went through it, Ukraine went through it. They're not going to stop. They're not going to stop until they get the USSR back together again. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate so much that you're here and for what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Hello, all. My name is Ira. I am Ukrainian. I moved in Ukraine 1 year ago for program United for Ukraine, and I have some sad story about my life. I have mom. She was a military medic in Ukraine. She was in Ukrainian war in 2016 to 2022 year, and in 2022 year, I know about my mom died. Russia killed my mom when she helped Ukrainian soldier in Kharkiv, Ukrainian, and about this situation I know only in Facebook. One woman writes some post in Facebook about my mom died. And we don't know about something about this situation. We call for Ukrainian president, Ukrainian parliament, because we want to know about this story. But my mom 5 days was in the Zaval. I'm sorry, my English so. In the ground, yes, and we only pray for God and asking about we need look in my mom, because everyone tell me about you, mom. 20s, the Ukrainian parliament tell about. Ukrainian soldier who died. This is gross. It's gross 200. And we look in my mom 5 days, and after 5 days we get my mom. But it's very sad story, because my mom was very good woman. She helped a lot of people, because she was medic. She was medic in 20 years, but Russia killed my mom.
I'm sorry to hear that, first of all, and just take my condolences, please. What would be your words to people who will be watching, for the Americans? What would be your words for them?
So I never think about I stay in USA and I can live here. I thank you for American people who pride for Ukraine, and I want to tell Ukrainian people who here. Don't scared about anyone. As American people is good people, and we win in Ukrainian one. I want to think about this, and I think that God help Ukrainian people. I wanna please the Trump. Stop the war, but we want to live in free Ukraine, and we want to live in a good Ukrainian place. Thank you.
My name is Denise Flores, and I'm president of Sustain Ukraine, nonprofit incorporated. We met. Prodan is our treasurer, and we met online on X, of all places. And he was doing so many good things. I wanted to help him and support him from here. So I offered to build a corporation for him to drive. And now we fundraise from around the world, and our endeavor is starting to take wings, and we are very grateful.
What you feel about the war in Ukraine after these 3 years since the full-scale invasion of Russia into Ukraine, and what you feel about the hope for Ukraine in the current situation with the lack of support and the uncertainty?
The war itself is a crime against humanity. If you're not paying attention, you might have missed it, but it's a real genocide. Russia wants to steal the land from the Ukrainians for greed and power. What was the other part of your question?
What are your hopes for the future of Ukraine in the current context of uncertainty?
I want Ukraine to be free. I got involved with paying attention back under MH17 because I thought, would the Ukrainians do something like that? Or was that Putin? So I kept track of that. I saw the Maidan Revolution, and then I saw Crimea get taken. I was upset with Obama for not doing something and letting Putin get away with it. I was grateful when the war calmed down and just seemed to be kind of a stalemate. I didn't think it would go on this long, and I really didn't know enough to know that Putin would be back, and he will not give up, and he is not going to back down. And until the free world understands that everything President Zelenskyy says is factual and not melodramatic, this is not going to stop. You know, I was upset with President Biden that he didn't stomp out the seed of World War III when it sprouted in Ukraine. I felt like he should have moved bigger and more and faster, and I tried to be patient and understand the diplomacy of, I don't know, being afraid Russia would use nukes, and then since then I've watched their nukes blow up in a silo. I think that the corruption has basically taken care of Russia, and they're the second best army in Russia right now, right? And if we don't help them win this fight, the entire free world is going to regret that, and not that long in the future. I mean, I'm thinking 4 or 5 years, it's going to come back bigger and worse.
So I personally feel like from the religious standpoint that it is said that we need to help our brothers and sisters. So in this context, how you could comment on that?
That was what got me involved, was these people need our help. You know, back then I had some naivete. We're Americans. We're going to go kick Putin's ass. Nobody likes Putin, right? Like, I don't know where MAGA comes from on this, but Putin's been our arch enemy since the Cold War. You know, like, how can this be happening? Not just today's vote, but MAGA embracing him. It's such a shock to me. I don't think that anybody who treasures humanity can stand by and act like somebody else is going to take care of this, because they're not. You have to stand up. You have to be the person to take that chance and step up and step forward and start pushing your elected officials to do something and not play along with Trump. It's not a game. We're talking an entire country at stake. This isn't the tribe of the Kurds. This isn't just the Afghans that helped us. This man is going to abandon an entire country whose population is the size of California, whose nation is the size of Texas. And if you think that that's not going to have an effect on Europe, you're not thinking. It's going to affect the entire world. The Frontline Defenders, our 501c3 is specifically geared towards humanitarian assistance to the frontline defenders. You know, we'll help civilians, the Army will help civilians also. What we're about is making sure that they have whatever they need in their IFACs, the chest seals, the, tourniquets, the proper field stretchers that are durable, whatever we can do, medical vans, medical trucks, whatever we can do to make sure that they can get the defenders out of there and to medical assistance. That is what the Christian faith preaches, isn't it? I mean, you're going to make me cry because so many people don't. They say those words, they go to church, but they don't see what is unfolding right around them. And I get that they're not on Telegram, right? Telegram is free ball, right? I get that they're, on the more sedate. I mean, X is pretty explicit, but there's so much there. Take it from me. I've seen things I never thought I would see. I've heard and known things. I have lived such a sheltered life here.
Do you think it's still important to speak out, to talk to people, to your neighbors, to spread the information? Would you comment on that?
I think that you need to engage to understand and overcome your discomfort and do everything within your power to call your congressman, call your senator, call your governor, get a megaphone, yell in the park. I don't know, but you need to overcome your own inhibitions and participate. People are dying for all the wrong reasons. They didn't do anything. They were going about their business. And we're talking about people who are highly educated, ingenious, almost to diabolical, right? We're talking capable, committed. We are talking Americans from the 50s after we won World War II. These people are us when we were young. You're going to get me to cry again. These people are us when we were young, when we were still unjaded and felt powerful, and they're up against Russia. And the only way I think they really start to feel powerful is when we are out here cheering them on. They know we're at their back. They know we're not going to take it either. And we're calling our leaders to make sure that they know we are with Ukraine. We stand with Ukraine.
Good evening. I'm Joe Wyckoff. I am a former U.S. Army soldier. Been to Ukraine a number of times. I'm a Russian linguist, and you can say that I have opinions on the Russian-imposed genocide and war in Ukraine. And you might guess that I'm not really in favor of the Russian war.
Yeah, would you please share more on that?
Well, let's start with nations go to war. That's a thing. So I believe that Russia is imposing a war of empire following the rules of the 1800s rather than what we might accept as rules in the modern era. And I believe that there is a very clear case of genocide as defined with respect to the children of Ukraine. Russia kidnapping the children of Ukraine, hiding their identities, forcing them to become Russified. That is the definition, number 4, of genocide, the forcing of children to forget their origin, right? Some of the other things are going to be harder to define, but it's pretty clear from statements from the Russian powers, the Russian leadership, that they are intent on a genocide. The rhetoric of Nazism when there is no Nazism is designed to provoke the Russian people into a patriotism because, of course, Russia during World War II had, including Ukraine, had a very difficult time facing Nazism, right? And many people remember that grandpa or even dad in some cases struggled with the Nazis. And so that rhetoric is designed to motivate the Russian people to go kill the brutal enemy, right? Sticking the label of Nazis onto the Ukrainian. And there are a myriad of statements to, not so much from Putin, but those around him, that are very clearly genocidal in nature. But ignoring that, because that's hard to prove, and that will be proven over decades or not, the war crimes being committed, the Geneva Conventions are not in play at all, essentially. Russia is killing whoever, wherever, civilians on the battlefield, civilians not on the battlefield, captured and helpless Ukrainian soldiers. So Russia is playing by the rules of another century. And it's unfortunate that the United States appears to be embarked on a path of abandoning the support of freedom. I am not in favor of that particular exercise of power by our government.
Do you think there is still a chance that the authority, like the government in the United States, would be able to sort of, roughly speaking, stand up against Trump's crazy policy? And that's not just rational. That's a completely different course. That's against the whole philosophy, the idea of the United States.
Do I believe it? No. Do I think it's possible? Yes. So I see personally Trump as mercurial. He will change his position for whatever reason he deems appropriate. And that means useful change is possible, if not necessarily likely. I believe Trump is a populist, and so if public opinion changes, then Trump's opinion is likely to change. But more importantly, I believe that the economic interests of the United States are such that it's likely that there will be a continued amount of support for Europe specifically and implicitly Ukraine. For example, a company I used to work for, I'll call Big Red, is an arms manufacturer, and they sell billions of dollars of equipment to allies, and they're not going to want to stop selling that equipment, which means that they're going to be on Capitol Hill looking for ways to continue to sell that equipment. And that might result in sales to, let's say, Denmark, who in turn donates last year's equipment to Ukraine or something like this. So I'm hopeful that there will be some continued support for Ukraine, at least at the industrial level, if not explicitly at the political level. Now, at the political level, arms have to be approved by the Department of Defense, and that means, in effect, they are subject to the approval or disapproval of the presidential administration. But here again, there's so much money at stake, and Trump has actually temporarily, at least, erased the Foreign and Corrupt Practices Act, which means some of that money might wind up in his own pocket one way or another. So, boy, there's a lot to talk about in the politics of the United States, but my basic thing is that Ukraine, in what I've observed, there is some corruption, let's put that on the table, but there's corruption here in the United States as well. Ukraine, in what I observed, has been struggling for freedom and generally succeeding since 1991, right? Improving where they are. For example, in the corruption index, they've improved dramatically over time. They've been looking for freedoms, they've been looking for a political voice, and getting it generally. And by the way, if you look at Kiev Independent or Kiev Post, you will see that corruption is being publicized. Does that mean that corruption is growing? Well, it might, but it also might mean that people are able to expose corruption. And sometimes they get punished for that. That's a thing too, which they in turn expose, right? So the fourth arm of the fourth estate, the fourth arm of the government, is a free press. And while they don't quite have a free press during war, they're doing a pretty good job of it. So bullish on Ukraine.
All right. So one more question too is you mentioned that you're a Russian linguist. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I learned Russian in the Army at the Defense Language Institute in Monterey, California. At the time, it was the largest provider of language training in the United States in terms of instructional hours. That's probably still true. And so during the Cold War, my enemy was the Soviet Union. Apparently today, my enemy is Russia. That hasn't really changed much. I am not an enemy of the Russian people per se, but it makes me very sad to find that something between 30 and 80% of Russians support the war in Ukraine. I find that appalling.
Yeah. So do you think that Russia is just a local threat, or it's more like a threat that could turn into the World War III?
Well, I would argue that World War III is already in progress, but, you know, people have differing opinions on that. In terms of Russia, it has to be observed that Russia's economy today is smaller than that of Italy. It was comparable with Italy, but it's actually shrunk as a result of sanctions, which have been slightly successful. Not greatly successful, but slightly successful. So Russia's economy is in decline. Russia's population is in decline, as is Ukraine, as are, frankly, most industrial nations, including the United States. But Russia's population is in dramatic decline, and it's killing off the people that would create the next Russian generation. So is Russia a threat? First of all, they're a nuclear power. So yes, they're a threat. They're a threat to the existence of the United States in as much as they are a nuclear power, and they've expressed willingness to use that and other weapons of mass destruction and other powers, soft power, the Bulava, the new missile that isn't much of a missile. They have over and over again, the security guy, the old president, he has over and over again threatened the existence of the United States, of London, whatever. So clearly they want to be seen as a threat as well as being a threat in fact. But they're in decline. So I do support the idea that China is the big threat, not only to the United States, but to the West as a whole. But it has to be recognized that Russia could be an existential threat to any of the nations of the West. It has enough nuclear weapons to be an existential threat to destroy any capital you might name. Of course, we can destroy back, and their weapons are probably not well maintained. So some of that may be a bit of a joke.
What would be your call to action to the people who'd be watching this video who feel the same as you and who feel that they would want to support Ukraine, that they want the same as us, as the part of the civilized world that supports Ukraine?
Well, so Ukrainians are a feature in many major metropolitan areas. In Sacramento, we have over 20,000 Ukrainians. They're embedded in the community, and they've been embedded in the community actually for well over a century. Ukrainians and Russians have both been here in Sacramento for well over a century. That's true of some other communities as well. So if you live in one of those communities, simply engage with Ukrainians. I'm not a fan of just sending money to Ukraine, but there are American organizations that do help in Ukraine. And if you don't trust those organizations, and I know Ukrainians who don't trust those organizations, frankly, then there are other organizations like the American Red Cross that sends money throughout the world. Help somebody. You don't have to help specifically Ukraine, although that would be nice, but help somebody. Donate to something like Doctors Without Borders, the American Red Cross. Here we have the Ukrainian American House, right, or Sunflower Society here in Sacramento in the Bay Area and so forth. So there are many Ukrainians in many major metropolitan areas or agrarian areas around Chicago. This is kind of where I learned what little Ukrainian I've learned is from a dialect of Ukrainians from the Donbass, essentially, that came to the mining areas near Chicago once upon a time. Coal and iron, essentially, right? So, yeah, donatate, right? It's something you can do.
Thank you, Joe.
My pleasure. Дуже дякую.
My name is Yana Trotsuk.
What brought you here, and what do you feel after 3 years of full-scale invasion?
What brought me here? I'm a volunteer in Sunflower Society, and this is grassroots movement. We organize every 24th of each month a rally in front of Capitol here to raise awareness about war in Ukraine. As you know, people's memory is short, and unfortunately, despite all these victims are still happening and war is going on, people are tired. And I believe only raising awareness, getting attention of people by gathering through social media, we can still hope for some additional, help, because Ukrainians are still suffering of war, dying, and I believe Ukraine should win. It must win.
So you do this every month, right?
Yeah.
Where do you find the inner strength inside of you to keep doing this? Where do you find it? Where are you taking it from?
It doesn't require strength. It's just I believe that this war is so unjust. Like any war, I believe, but this specific war is so unjust because of, I'm from Russia, and I hate what's going on there in Russia. But full-scale invasion, a war in Europe in 21st century, I don't know what can be worse.
What do you think about the current situation that the United States is, especially because of Trump, is not really into supporting Ukraine right now and offering these deals and whatnot? What do you think about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty sad rhetoric I'm hear nowadays from U.S. President, but I hope, he's pretty well known about making deals, and I hope it's just part of game.
As a Russian, because I'm personally Russian as well, do you feel like it's a part of the collective responsibility? Do you feel this collective responsibility for the war that started?
I see. So, well, I'm personally against war, right? But I'm not naive. We're all Russian citizens. We're all doomed to be blamed, unfortunately. And this is like part of responsibility. I cannot deny, like, oh no, of course I'm against. I'm with Ukrainians and with all my heart, but I believe, since I belong to Russia is my homeland. It's just inevitable, I believe,
So, as a part of Sunflower Society and the organizers team, how do you do the Ukrainians who are probably mostly are Ukrainians in this society, right? How do they take your help? Are they thankful? Are they appreciative? Are you engaging well with them, communicating well? Could you share a bit more about that?
Oh, Sunflower Society is multinational. There are Ukrainians, of course, as you mentioned, mostly Russians, Americans, and I'm really thankful to those Ukrainians who accept our help and our participation, and because I understand that sometimes emotions can just, not just stop even a possibility to communicate with Russians just for the reason we're from Russia, right? But I'm really, really appreciated to those, my friends, my Ukrainian friends, who cooperate with us and to support Ukrainian families who suffer, who lose their family members, or whose fathers and husbands are wounded severely, and we do fundraisings, we raise awareness, as I mentioned before, and many more.
What would be your call to action to the English-speaking audience who'd be watching this video? The Americans, the people in Europe, basically the whole civilized world. What would you feel to tell them?
About war in Ukraine? It should be stopped.
Like if they feel the same kind of emotion as we all feel here, uh, what would be your words of support to them who'd be watching this on YouTube?
I would say fight evil, and as much as you can, if you can, just contribute your help, a little money, or your little time. So do that.
Is it important to talk to neighbors? What do you think about that?
Yeah, despite people are divided a lot nowadays because of social media. I believe I blame that part of our life, but still, we live in democracy, and we must use this opportunity to, spread our opinions, because I believe, yeah, Ukraine deserve to be independent and protected.
If there is someone being offended, if there is someone being attacked, the strong one needs to support the weak one.
Absolutely. I believe this is a duty of every stronger being, whatever country or man, if you're capable to protect, so do that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah.